Are we okay? We got the fucking... We've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and we'll start with a story. Now this sounds like him. Lorne's in 10th grade. Of course, the teacher's a female. Lorne really liked classes with the females. However, they were reportedly the ones he did the worst in, and I think we know why. They became his objects of obsession, not affection. Lorne's in class and he's writing a note. And apparently he gets called out. And the teacher reads it. Now remember, you have to remember, this is not the touchy-feely. When you're in school and you got like a timeout shit where you need to get out of the classroom and take a deep breath. This is back in the day where the teachers would flip my desk over if they were messy and traumatize the hell out of me. She reads his poem in front of the class, and I swear to you, I can see this happening. She asked him, "That's a nice poem, Lorne," which apparently it was 2nd grade level, which they still are. I almost pulled my hair right out. She asked him who it's about. And I'm going to give you 3 seconds to think about who it was about. I'll give you a choice. Was it A, a student? Or B, a 40-year-old teacher? You're right. It was about the teacher. And Lorne, because he's an 87, gleefully says, "What's about you, Mrs. Whoever you were?" He had been sitting in the front of the class, which is how he got caught, which we know he's too stupid to realize that if you're standing right in front of the teacher, she's going to spot it. So she moved him literally to the back of the class. I honestly believe, at first, Lorne's singing, he just wanted a pat on the back. He wanted a little bit of praise. I don't think he was expecting to be signed, but I think he thought if he puts those videos out, someone would say, "Good job, Lorne. We know he craves that. We know he wants it and he needs it." I don't think it was until after the sting that he decided he was going to be a country music star, get signed, be famous nationally. Part of me wonders if he didn't get a little bit of taste of fame, a little bit of notoriety, get my attention, if he didn't get a little bit of notoriety and realize, I kind of like this. I hate why I have it, but people know my name. There's a community about me. I'm a cod. I think that's when he was craving the attention. He thought, if I do this, it'll make up for that. Remember the irony of how he told Casey, "I'm one of the biggest names on NBC," and he wouldn't be someone with any kind of recognition had it not been for NBC and the thing he hates the most, as we say. So I think he thought, okay, I can get this. People worship me. They want me. Now I'm going to be a country music star. We all have fantasies. Some are strange. I've talked to people who have a fantasy that they're an angel and one day they're going to save somebody. Their wings are going to... I'm telling you, it gets weird. Those are fantasies. I'm not saying that's what they believe, but it's their fantasy. Something heroic, something unique that makes them special, which is what I think Lorne wants. To be unique, something that makes him special. He doesn't realize he looks like a melted Yeti-shaped ice cream cone with pubic hair all over it. I don't think his self-image is the way we see him. We've talked about that too. So he doesn't understand that a convicted sex offender, convicted child predator, I don't think he understands you're not going to get signed to a contract. And looking like you do, you're not going to get signed to a contract. Look at somebody like Tim McGraw. Not Tim McGraw now. Tim McGraw in his prime. I knew women who went mental over this guy because they thought, now that's a real man. And he even made that song, Real Good Man. Kenny Chesney even. Can't stand to listen to his voice, but women would go crazy for him. Garth freaking Brooks. I think Lorne put himself in that category, and I'll tell you one reason why. Because he could sing their songs, and he thought that put him on an even playing field, because I can sing what you sing, and I think I sing great. We are on the same level. So I can make it because you made it. He doesn't understand skill levels, as we've talked. He does not understand. We talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect. If you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch it. We talked about that. So he can't differentiate between who's good and who's not, and where he's at on the good spectrum, which is about a 3. Dan's a 10, he's a 3. So he doesn't understand he'll never get signed, but let's pretend he does. He gets the PR firm of all PR firms, because they can make anybody a star. Well, most anybody a star. Put you in a rotation of 20 songs a day on the radio, have somebody working on your self-image, on your social media accounts, have somebody booking you appearances, coaching you, telling you what to say. Like the football players. A lot of them are terrible people. They get busted, and the ones that get busted are the unlucky ones. But they have the white knight. They're out there doing charity work. Make-A-Wish. Make-A-Wish was important because of what it did for children. But as Stephanie McMahon once said, charity is the new future of marketing. Because it's true, when you have a poor image, just do charity work. And so I think Lorne would be able to make it because of some very clever PR people. I don't know the angle. He turned his life around. This is all he ever wanted. He was messed up at the time. He could go on some real redemption tour. But one thing we know about Mr. Penis, he won't let people talk about him. He doesn't like when people talk about him. He would go on social media, even though they didn't give him, just to let you know, they don't give these celebrities the passwords to their own accounts. The celebrities will give them an idea of what they want them to say. And then the PR people, the interns, will go on social media. They give them a lot of power. Those people could go on there and ruin them. Like Conor McGregor needs a filter. Lorne would get on there and go full Conor McGregor and say things. I don't think he would delete his tweets. He's too stupid. He would go out there and attack anybody who attacked him, who criticized him, and before you know it, he's in massive trouble. Now let's say that didn't happen, but we know it would happen. He would have his own YouTube channel, because he already did it once. We know it would happen. He gets a little bit of fame and think that makes him bulletproof. That makes him a god. He would go to these concerts, and because in his head, he'd be on stage, they'd be throwing underwear, bras, but he would go to these concerts, and he would be enabled to drink. I get what I want. If you want to maintain employment, you're going to give me what I want. What's scarier is, there are young girls at these concerts. Lorne would have access to them. You can't change what you're attracted to, and I firmly believe you cannot rehabilitate child predators or sex offenders in general. How many times do they go? How many times do you see them go to prison and then they get out and they kill people? If you watch any of those shows about world's most evil killers, he went to jail for 15 years for the assault and murder of a child, and then he got out and killed a whole bunch of them. Like, that's a big shock. Lorne wouldn't be able to have children around him because of his offense. But that wouldn't stop him. There are ways around everything, especially when you're famous. Now, the first time he got caught, I believe the family would take a payoff. I do. I think the family would take a payoff to keep quiet, because unfortunately, people want money more than justice. When you can get a whole bunch of money just by accusing somebody, that's what you're going to take. So Lorne does it once, he's going to pay somebody off. But if it happens again, it's not just going to be 1 or 2 victims. The other victims are going to come out, and Lorne's going to start his own Me Too movement. Now, keep in mind, before any of you tell me this would never happen because of probation and parole, I'm going under the assumption that Lorne got his wish. He got off probation and parole. That's why he was signed. Nobody would sign him, and they wouldn't allow him if he was on probation and parole. He'd never be allowed to sing in front of groups of people, especially with young girls, children involved. He would have access to alcohol. He'd be off probation and parole. He would be on a sponsorship program in no time. He'd go out on stage drunk as hell, They'd put him on a sponsorship program. They'd use the apology where he comes out, my actions, I regret that my actions. They would do the pre-written apology. They would use the rehab angle. They would use that angle to show he's working on himself, to garner sympathy. And he may be on the outs for a little while, but rehab draws fans back in. People would talk about how he changed his life. He would hide his drinking. He wouldn't stop. He would hide it. Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels used to do this thing. These were two of the biggest stars in the WWF at the time. They would take a bunch of pills, including somas, and time when they took it, so they'd be out in the ring, and Kevin would ask Shawn, you kicking? Shawn would say, yeah, and you? That means they were buzzed really good. That means it was time to go home. It was time to do the finish of the match. I think Lorne would time his drinking. So just about the end of the show, it would start kicking in. And he'd be able to finish and then get hammered, go to after parties. Because at after parties, people forgive you for drinking. Because, hey man, we all wish we could go to these after parties and be these rock stars and rich people. So we forgive it. I also think that Lorne might switch from alcohol. Maybe he might switch from alcohol, because then he could hide it on stage and he could be drinking it throughout the night. Because if you pick up a beer, it could even be Lorne's gimmick. Say he didn't go to a sponsored rehab. It could even be his gimmick, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I bring up wrestling because in the 90s, late 90s, they were the rock stars. They were the pinnacle of popularity. So Lorne could use it as a gimmick. I don't know about you guys, but I need to kick back and pop open a cold one. The crowd would cheer. They'd hold up their drinks. He could even do a toast to everybody. It's just my opinion. He would find ways around drinking on stage, getting drunk. And once it became a gimmick and people adored it, people got behind it, he would keep drinking. What are they going to do? He's making them a ton of money. I mean, we're talking about if he could sing. He's making them a ton of money. You think they're going to stop that? I don't. Because they're willing to watch somebody self-destruct as long as they are making millions. He's not going to be giving that money to his family. He could make $1 million and give his mom a couple hundred. He's going to blow it as soon as he gets it. He's going to buy a bunch of crap he didn't need. I think Lorne would be in serious financial trouble because in his head, he's always going to remain the biggest name in the history of music. At least I think so. He's going to blow it because he's counting on his next album. And that's just what I think of him. And the problem with Lorne is, I think he would self-destruct possibly after the first album. He wouldn't know what to do. He'd have all kinds of sexual charges, I think, at least in my opinion. He couldn't control himself. He couldn't control his substance abuse. I think there'd be charges at the ass in the newspaper. It would be on TV. You know, country music star Lorne Armstrong accused today. I think he would trash a hotel room. He'd be entitled. I only wanted green M&Ms. What do you mean they didn't have any Bud Light? I don't want regular Budweiser. Because I don't think Lorne's taste would change. So I really do believe that being a country music star, it would have killed him. Yeah, I think he would have crashed his expensive car. His mom would still be living where she was. All of these people that put up with him for so many years, they would be where they were. He has no sense of gratitude, no compassion, none. He might buy his mom a nice watch, some jewelry. They would be exactly where he left them. He would be in Cornville showing everybody he thought ever wronged him how much money he had. And then, at the end, he would have to come crawling back. He'd be sitting in his trailer, talking to women, asking himself what happened. Because being a star would not be good for him, and he would self-destruct. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.